seems like, I don't know if anybody knows, I use the official MRA to buy a catapult for my own personal travel. And the thing works pretty good if the trajectory's right. If it's not wrong, sometimes the floor is pretty hard on you. But we're going to invest in a new cannon, and maybe that'll be a little faster way to get around. But I do appreciate all of you for being here. I think Mr. Ellison's going to be here, possibly Mr. Flake. And John Shattuck, I understand, will be here. And there may be others, and we'll try to introduce them as we go. But I'm very pleased today to say to you that Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is with us. Dr. Jasser founded the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, or the AIFD, in March of 2003 with a group of Muslim professionals in the Phoenix Valley of Arizona, actually where I live. AIFD seeks to be a leading voice for liberty-minded Muslims in America in the war on terror, and I truly believe they live up to that endeavor. Dr. Jasser is the son of a Muslim Syrian immigrant. I guess both of them were Muslim Syrian immigrants, both of his parents, and is a native of Wisconsin. He graduated from the Medical College of Wisconsin in 1992 and completed his specialty training in internal medicine at Bethesda Naval Hospital in 1996. I'm just going to go ahead and read this because this is a Renaissance man. He's kind of a very impressive figure, not to mention a wonderful and engaging human being. In 1999, he was staff internist for the Office of the Attending Physician here in Congress, and he's since been in the private practice of internal medicine and nuclear cardiology in Phoenix. Dr. Jasser is the immediate past president of the American Medical Association and also chairs the Bioethics Committee for Banner Good Samaritan Hospital. I guess it's a regional medical center there, and I go by there quite a lot of times. He's always been very active in the study of Islam and its intersections with American culture. He's been active in multiple local efforts at Interfaith Network. And in 2000, he and a leading local rabbi founded the Children of Abraham. That's a magnificent name. An active Muslim-Jewish dialogue group in Scottsdale. Dr. Jasser also serves as the Muslim representative on the board of the Arizona Interfaith Movement since December of 2001. We've got copies of his full bio, and I hope you'll look at that. As many of you here know, since September 11th, U.S. government officials have actively pursued a relationship and a dialogue with the Muslim community in America. And of course, that always presents controversial and discussion. But today we're very glad to be joined by Dr. Jasser, who will speak with us about what he believes is fueling the continuous Islamist terrorist plots uncovered by the FBI and what role American Muslims may play in countering the ideologies which fuel these attacks. I think, that all of us talk a lot about tolerance, and I've come to believe that true tolerance is in loving and caring about your fellow human beings in spite of your differences, not in pretending you have no differences. There's a great deal of differences. A great deal of difference in suggesting that, well, we're all just on the same page, because I know that there are divergent beliefs, and I hold the Christian faith sacred in my own soul and heart, but part of my religion is to hold sacred all people regardless of theirs. And I think that somehow it's vitally important that we are able to hold religious freedom at a very high level of critical importance to the human family if we're ever going to learn to live together as I believe the Almighty intended us to live together. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Again, Mr. Shattuck and Mr. Ellison are supposed to make remarks as well when they arrive, but in the meantime, we'll turn it over to Dr. Jasser. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Franks. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for coming this afternoon, and often briefings are sort of a series of facts from individuals that have an opportunity to get the ear of members of Congress and policymakers. And I'd like to do something a little different today. And basically, I appreciate more than I can say the efforts of Congressman Franks' office in having me come out and do a briefing on what the role of the Muslim community is in combating terrorism. And I want this to be a session where we roll up our sleeves and we work together to figure out as American citizens what should be the driving factors in the interaction between American Muslims and our government. and what should be the interaction with organizations, and how we can both lift up liberty and security as ideas. But the reason why we're here, and the reason why the issue of Islam and Muslims has gotten so much attention, is the threats. Last week we saw probably the busiest week since 9/11, and yet we are complacent often, but we would be complacent if we thought that the threat went away. If anything, it's increased this year more than ever. The elephant in the room, though, as we've seen many courageous members of Congress like Mr. Wolf and Congressman Myrick and others that have pointed out, and Mr. Franks and others that have pointed out, that we've avoided talking about what the threat is. We've avoided talking about the fact that there is a theology behind, there is a radical ideology behind a faith that I love, that many of my co-religionists love and practice as a relationship with God, but yet it has been, use whatever metaphor you want, hijacked, exploited, used as a platform for radicalism. There was a report put out by the U.S. Senate last year called Violent Islamist Extremism through Senator Lieberman's Homeland Security Committee, and it talked about the internet homegrown terrorist threat, and concludes the following. There is no cohesive and comprehensive outreach and communication strategy in place today to confront this threat. That's in 2008. And it also found, quote, that the violent Islamist threat to the homeland has evolved and expanded. Homegrown threats are a reality in the U.S. In December 2006, Derek Sharif pled guilty to wanting to blow up malls in Rockford, Illinois. In May 2007, the Fort Dick Six were arrested. We've seen 5 different cases last week. We've seen the plot out of North Carolina in July, the plot in May out of New York that was going to bomb synagogues. And yet, we are shifting. We see policymakers from the White House down talking about saying that our enemy is simply Al-Qaeda. None of these individuals are related to Al-Qaeda. And the only unifying principle that we see them related to is violent jihadism, or the concept of a holy war that they pick up through internet, through communications, and what has been deemed a cyber jihad. The NYPD report, which also was decried by many Muslim organizations and yet not posing any other solutions, simply complaining, talked about a jihadi Salafi foundation. What is jihadi Salafi? Salafism is something that, as an ideology, is put forth in the Islamic faith that they want to return everything exactly the way it was at the time of the Prophet Muhammad. Certainly my parents taught me to emulate the Prophet's character in everything that I do. But the Prophet's government was an Islamic state. It's time for Muslims to evolve in that and have reform and out of the concept and begin to talk about the separation of mosque and state. And the NYPD report talks about the transformation from unremarkable people into terrorists. And that involves, and Muslims need, I believe, we need to engage Muslims that start to recognize that there is aspects to theology that contributes to a slippery slope. And yes, the problem, if we say that the problem is terrorism, we're never going to solve this, because terrorists, simply, it's an act. There is an ideology that's pushing them. And we formed our organization on the pretext that this is an Islamic problem and it needs an Islamic solution. So we're trying to engage Muslim leaders from Congress on down. And this was one of the impetuses of this briefing, was in that Congressman Ellison came to our area in Phoenix a few weeks ago. Mr. Waxman, welcome. Came to our area in Phoenix a few weeks ago and was fundraising for CAIR. And we've had significant problems with the organization of CAIR. And the reason is we think that America needs to understand that there's diversity in the Muslim community. There's political diversity in the Muslim community that is not represented now in this beltway. Many of us have jobs, we're busy as physicians, as attorneys, as engineers, and we don't have time to be in the DC area all the time. And yet, we're getting portrayed simply by the Islamist mindset, which is focused on victimization. I will not repeat for you the litany of threats that we've had in Congress and in Washington and New York and Chicago and Dallas, all over the world, all over the country, I'm sorry, since the last year, but clearly this year has been one of the busiest as far as radical Islamists are concerned. The elephant in the room, though, is what is the Muslim community doing, and how does the U.S. government engage the Muslim community? We saw a large event on the Hill last week, which celebrated American religious freedom, and I certainly came from parents who taught me that we could practice our faith more freely in America than we could anywhere else in the world. And I'm proud to be a son of 2 parents that I think helped build, I think 4, definitely 3, if not 4 mosques in America. So the aspect of religious freedom is something that we cherish.